kitchen.
Good.
How is the they have Saturdays or you have to cook
Saturdays.
on Sunday? Or just
We cook on Saturdays, but we serve on Saturday and Sunday.
good. Yeah, okay.
Really been good.
Sounds good.
But Lyle's going to kick off the evening and explain what this is all about. Thank you, Lyle.
In a matter of about 3 days, I was able to go through and find some of the videos that I thought would show different aspects of weather warfare. And maybe some people haven't seen some of them. And I think that, I don't know, people have to realize that if this is really happening around the planet right now, some people deny it. They just don't see it. They can't understand. They can't fathom that something so evil and so terrible is actually has a possibility of being true. So they won't accept it. Yeah. But the information is all over the internet, and it's so mind blowing. They show the patterns and everything. I was going to say, once people figure out whether it's actually happening or not, the next thing is to find out, well, what are they attacking with the weather weapons? And then why are they attacking with the weather weapons? And then who is behind the attacks, right? And these are all questions that people need to find out the answer to. And I wanted to say too that I'm not an expert in the field. I'm not a PhD or anything. I'm just a regular person. But I have an interest to find the truth in the war against humanity that's actually going on right now in many, many ways. This is just one of them, right? And I believe that I try to meet people. I can meet people out in the public at a store or walking on the hike or something, and I spark up a conversation. And just for no reason, I get the right people 98% of the time. And they may not have heard any of this information, but they have open minds. And so after about 15 minutes of talking with them, if I'm fortunate, I get their email address and I send them videos. And I have people that I've had on my list for like 3 or 4 years now. And I never get a comment back from them. And then one time, out of the blue, they said, boy, I've been watching every one of your videos and I've been passing them on to my friends. Oh, great. You know? And so this is mostly what I do. And I also, with a few other people, we put banners up on overpasses over in the San Jose, Palo Alto, Oregon Hill area. And during rush hour traffic, for like about 3 hours, it's bumper to bumper. And almost all the people now, and hardly anybody flips us the bird anymore. When a pandemic was going on, we had a lot of those. But people are learning. I think they're starting to wake up. But the people that do respond are beeping their horns and waving. Yeah. And they want to see our eyes, they see them, because they want to have some kind of feeling that there's other people like them. Yeah. And it's cool. But anyway, I try to get people to understand the bigger picture, because once you show them or let them and you see what you think is the bigger picture, then all the smaller pictures are easier to understand. They all fall into place and it makes sense. And so that usually the first videos I send are ones that show basically the top of the pyramid in the world. And we don't really know who they are. That's why the pyramid is missing, right? They are the ones that I believe they're the controllers and the shot callers for the UN, the World Economic Forum, and the WHO. And all three of those organizations were created for this very time when they wanted to reduce the population of the planet. In fact, the guy that donated the land in New York for the headquarters of the UN was Rockefeller. And these are the bloodlines that think they're special and they're different than the rest of us. They have a different DNA going back to Babylon. This is my belief. I don't expect you guys to all believe it. But anyway, once you understand that they've been planning this for probably hundreds of years, if not thousands of years, knowing that when the population came to a certain level, they were going to push the reset button and start over. And
late last week, their statement that they were studying the injection of.
Sorry about that.
Anyway, she said that when she gets patients to come in and say they're unvaxxed, she can't find anybody, vaxxed or unvaxxed, that has pure blood in them. So either the people got it shed from vaccinated people, or it's come down in chemtrails, or it's been put in our food or water. And so, if you go and have your blood analyzed, you're probably gonna find out you got all those little things in there. But it's better to be unvaxxed still, because some of that stuff you probably don't have. But what they wanna do is they wanna connect, all the people to artificial intelligence through 6G. And 6G is, because 6G works in terahertz. It's not as powerful as 5G, and it can interact with the nano things that are in your body, the chips and all that. So anyway, that's what I I'm concerned mostly about.
Singularity Goat? The Singularity Goat?
Yeah, and Elon Musk, he has this AI called what is it, Doc? And he claims it's the most advanced AI there is out there. And so now he's helping Trump, right? You think that they're just going to bring it right in? And it appears that all those different agencies, that they're eliminating a lot of jobs and finding fraud. Well, it appears that they're going to replace all those people with artificial intelligence. And this is the part of the plan. Most people are cheering Trump on, and they're cheering up their own demise. And I voted for Trump twice, so I was surprised when he just right after he got elected, all of a sudden he was writing executive orders like there was no tomorrow. And this is a dictatorship if you look at it. None of us get to say anything about it, right? But a lot of good things he's doing, but it kind of hides the bad things that are in there too. Anyway, I don't want to get into politics, but let's see. And the UN is also, they had this thing last September called the Pact for the Future and the Summit of the Future, and people aren't aware what they voted on this. And what they're doing, they're claiming that there's going to be so many major disruptions around the world, including lack of food and AI running rampant and civil war in the United States. And all this is on a website. It's a government website in Canada. Somebody from the UN came over and put it on the website. And I have some pictures of it. But they want to eventually. Their plan is to say that humans can no longer manage these disruptions, and they're going to turn it all over for a one world government AI program to run everything. This is in their plan. And if people want to dig it up, it's there. And Klaus Schwab, what he said, if you take the gene editing, it won't change you, it won't change what you do, but it will change you. And then you all have already said for the first time, humans have under the skin surveillance. And this is what was injected, right? And it says humans can now be hacked. And anyway, and people that think that Bill Gates is this guy with a halo over his head, he used to go every year. He was involved in this group of very rich people that called themselves the Good Club. And him and Ted Turner and Oprah Winfrey and Bloomberg and Soros and all these guys would meet once a year in somebody's mansion and talk about population control for the world. And there is a video that got, I think, scrubbed off the internet. It showed Bill Gates sitting on the stage at the Jimmy Fallon show in 2017. And he was sitting next to Jimmy Fallon, and he was talking to the audience, and he explained to the audience, and it was on video, I've seen it, and he said that the original reason that he started the Bill and Melinda Gates organization was for population control. Now, that seems these things, in order for us to get CO2 levels down to almost zero, he said one of these things is also gonna have to be done to almost zero, and the P for people lit up, and the audience was clapping. I mean, anyway, we just went over, 3 weeks ago when he was in town in Mountain View, and, he was doing a talk and selling books about, I think, computers at the Computer Museum. So we went out there and we took our banners and held them up out in front of the, museum. So, that was kind of cool, but, let's see. Oh yeah, and then I go into, I got some videos about, the different geoengineering and the chemtrails and all that, and the last ones are kind of centered in on what happened in Maui. And, they censored almost everything. They wouldn't let any, media go in there. They put the army people and they put these, chain link fences around the whole area and put black, material so you couldn't see in. And there was checkpoints, and they wouldn't let people in for the longest time. And still, almost nothing's been rebuilt. And so this is, what I think and many other people think that it's actually part of the UN Agenda 2030 plan to create a smart city, because the governor went to the UN claiming that Maui, before this happened, went to the UN claiming Maui was going to be the first smart island in the world, right? And then he made that proclamation that if there's a major disaster in Maui, then they can suspend and change any building codes and zoning that they want to create anything they want. And I went over there with my wife and we talked to some of the locals after the fire. We went to a restaurant and we started talking. And basically, most of them don't have a clue that they've been attacked by the globalists for this very reason. And most of them believe their news on TV and they don't mention a thing about it. And my wife is from Hawaii and she's Hawaiian, and even her relatives have a hard time if they say, oh, you're conspiracy theorists.
Oh man, it's just lovely spiritual people. It's hard to believe that they're believable.
Well, the aloha spirit.
Yeah, exactly.
They've been mind controlled over the years, right? So I feel sorry for somebody that's been under attack, they've lost the war, or they're losing it, and they don't even understand who's created the war against them. And wait till and they've been doing this all over the world. And also I have a video in here that shows what directed energy weapons did in Lahaina and proof that happened. And I can't say that I can 100% say that this is for a fact, but I'm saying that the people in Maui did their own investigation. It's called the Maui Community Investigation. And about 30 of the locals from Maui did their own investigation, which showed all kinds of anomalies that didn't get shown in the official, government investigation. And it's crazy. The same guys that the government got to investigate after the Lahaina fires was the same company that investigated after 9/11. That'll tell you something.
Well,
Right?
it wasn't the chief of police, the same guy at the.
Yeah, he was at the Mandalay Bay thing. Yes. And he got to
And
be
he
a
said
coroner
the
at the
civic
same time.
policies now. It's the
Is it?
same guy.
Yeah, well, people just don't wake up.
All the blue things are on skates.
Oh, yeah. But I've got, in one of the videos at the end, and I'll apologize in advance if you don't want to look at it, don't. But they show a couple of people that actually got hit with directed energy, in my mind. This is my opinion. And they're charred, they're laying there, 2,000 and 2,500 people actually died here. And the government's claiming only like 102 died, which is a complete lie. When we drove by, there's this stone wall on the side of the highway, and all the locals put up the pictures of all their missing people. And they noticed when the school convened the next semester that they only had like 1,200 people, and they were missing, a couple thousand students. All of a sudden disappeared and unaccounted for. And some people think they were put in buses and hauled off to some other location. That's another story, and I don't want to get into that. But
2.5, you saw those articles, I'm sure. So what people need to understand is they're not even looking for, let alone reporting or disclosing the much more lethal particles that are much smaller than 2.5. Those are carbon engineering particles, those are nano particles. So we have this mountain of even more toxic particles, of even more toxic elements being dispersed often directly above the smoke canopies. That's critical to understand. We have film footage of this. For example, the Paradise Fire blanket.
Sorry guys, we had a technical difficulty.
What t-shirt? I like that.
Conditions, and then of course, is it storms? So, let's just start with basics. This is what we're seeing right now across the Midwest. This is not normal for this area at this time of year, is it? No, I'm citing nothing's normal anymore in respect to weather and climate systems. Perhaps you saw that the White House released late last week their statement that they were studying the injection of aerosols into the sky, some of the stuff coming from energy, so it hasn't been going on for 75 plus years already, and that is indicative of the insane society that we live in, that they can pretend that they could be like geoengineers someday if things get bad enough, since it's not bad enough already, since we're not conducting weather warfare already, and again have been for 75 plus years.
Sorry guys, we're having a few technical difficulties.
Yeah, you're running too fast.
Yeah, it did put on. Yeah, I think that.
Push the gear. Go to settings.
Flower picture on the bottom, and the black one.
You know, I have to say that I didn't know what you were doing because I see people do that on videos. They're in the making fun of them, so usually,
Loud mitigation. And the interesting thing is geoengineers are talking about how if these programs were to be engineered, which they have been, how they would have to utilize weather to develop and determine hurricane, when rain, and
It was about Stephen Watson's study bureaus, my first TV job was on the Arizona PE.
You're running the video on
Well, that's the other video. The other one.
One of the parts of the program that is very important, so it plays in the handrails, is the precision of these actions in the atmosphere.
When that happened, they have done this for the school now.
One of our translators, if you will, and that's Dane Wigington, and he heads Geoengineering Watch. He's got some interesting comments today in connection with the vicious Hurricane Helene that has done so much damage to us. Welcome, Dane.
Thank you for your continued attention to what's occurring in our skies, Colonel McGregor. This is nothing short of all-out weather warfare at this point. We can speculate about the agendas and objectives being carried out, but the fact that these storms are absolutely being manipulated and steered is inarguable. The denial of this fact is absolutely ludicrous at this point. We know the U.S. military
1947, Project Cirrus. How far have they come since that point? So the cyclones are being kept weakened over water with manipulation of atmospheric pressure zones, and once they're near enough to the land-based network of frequency transmitters, the NextRad network, they are steered, and that steering is incredibly inarguable if we look at the animation of the frequency transmissions and their interaction with the storm, in this case Hurricane Helene. We recorded that, and that video, if we can roll that now, the interaction is absolutely inarguable.
Good.
Result of natural processes and climate patterns, or was it manipulated? The circular blue flashes seen in this video are frequency transmissions from the NextRad network of transmitter installations. All available science evidence makes clear that atmospheric frequency transmissions can and do have a repelling effect on air masses, especially if and when the air masses have been seeded with electrically conductive nanoparticles. The brighter the blue flash from a frequency transmission installation, the more pronounced and powerful the repelling effect on any air mass or storm in the vicinity will be. Where there are no blue flashes, there is no transmission, thus no repelling effect, thus no resistance for a migrating storm. Translation: a migrating storm will be hindered from moving toward frequency transmissions, and it will easily migrate in a direction with no transmissions. So again, I ask, was Hurricane Helene's path and behavior just an act of nature, or was it engineered? You decide.
Well, Dane, the question here is, how does this hurricane's path differ from others that we've seen? I've already had a lot of people call me from the Asheville area, talk specifically about the horrendous damage, and many of them pointed out that that is not Hurricane Alley per se. It's not an area that normally attracts storms. Can you help us understand this?
Well, the bottom line is it was directed there, as the transmission recordings clearly show. They kept that moisture corralled there to deluge in the same location. So, again, these are patented technologies, and the fact that we have the entire so-called meteorological community denying that this is going on to protect their paychecks and pensions is absolutely criminal at this point. We know we have private defense contractors that are neck deep in the patents that manipulate these storms, Raytheon, Lockheed Martin. We know those two in particular do the weather modeling for the nation's weathermen, National Weather Service and NOAA. Again, both agencies have an illegal federal gag order on them. So at this point, this is an emperor has no closed moment. That's the best description I can give for something that is so blatantly obvious and inarguable, can only be considered weather warfare at this point. And the fact that, again, the so-called science community is denying this manipulation is criminal. It's absolutely criminal, Colonel Gregor.
Why do you think the Asheville area in particular turned out to be a target? Does it have anything to do with the mining operations there for lithium or quartz? Is that just coincidental? I'm just curious. Again, people in Asheville are asking these questions. They're trying to find a rationale for why they ended up being in the middle of this.
Well, certainly, it's hard to call anything a coincidence at this point, isn't it? I mean, we have so many agendas and objectives being carried out with every action of the military-industrial complex and the money printer bankers that fund them and control them ultimately. And we have a cyclonic rotation like this that does that kind of decimation inland, and yet we have in the record warm Gulf of Mexico, nothing develops, nothing spins or damages the oil infrastructure there. Why is that? We see those, any rotation that comes anywhere near the oil infrastructure is immediately broken up. Yet we have this type of scenario happening inland. So again, once you interfere with the climate system, the entire system becomes derailed, and we have a global network interfering with the system. We have documents at geoengineeringwatch.org, some hundreds of pages long, some nearly 1,000 pages long, documenting the international cooperation of these programs, even between otherwise adversarial nations. So again, they will try to hide and deny these programs until the last possible hour, Colonel McGregor, because if the public realizes the entire weather system has been derailed and is being manipulated, and no weather cataclysm can then be said to be natural, which means that you can't deny the connection of climate engineering for any event anywhere. The liability issue is incalculable. And so, again, even this one issue that just happened in the Carolinas, how could you possibly even calculate the liability issue there when hundreds of people are still missing? I believe 100 are already officially declared dead, but hundreds still missing. If this issue is brought out into the open, the fur is going to fly, Colonel McGregor.
If you could do so, could you tell us about some of your recent discussions, conversations, briefings that you've had with political leaders from the states in question that have asked you what you think? First of all, what did they specifically ask you, if you could tell us? And how did they respond to your answers?
Yes, Colonel McGregor, I had an hour conference call yesterday with the representatives and senators from the Carolinas, and we presented the data to them to answer their questions about how this manipulation occurs. They realized this was not a natural event. They are trying to digest the fact that their states were literally under assault from weather modification operations that are clearly connected with DoD operations, and we can speculate again on the agendas and objectives being carried out, but the fact that the storm was manipulated is absolutely inarguable. We know that technology to stop these rotations from even occurring has existed for decades with the manipulation of atmospheric pressure zones. HAARP in Alaska is one example many people are familiar with. That's an ionosphere heater. That's a weapon of mass destruction, period. It can cause an electrical chain reaction in the ionosphere, which heats it to extraordinarily high temperatures, which causes the atmosphere to bulge up and down. Downward push creates a high pressure dome that can steer the jet stream. And the same type of manipulation can create low pressure zones. When they have this type of power over the climate system, they can make or break these storms anytime they want. And again, what we see now is storms kept weaker as they're over the ocean because they're harder to steer until they reach the land-based network of transmitters. And then we have, Colonel McGregor, rapid intent
And so forth. How did they react? Did they react, with a degree of serious skepticism, or did they take you seriously?
They're in shock. They're in shock. Because when you realize that you're literally at war with those who control the federal government, how does one digest that? And when we go all the way back to, again, as I've referenced many times, in 1962, 62 years ago, Lyndon Johnson, President Johnson, then stating we had the power to control the world's cloud layer and he who controls the weather controls the world. We're seeing this happen all over the globe. We're seeing countries like Dubai, as you remember recently, got 2 years worth of rain, 2 years worth, in 6 hours. Right after they decide to ditch the dollar. Is that a coincidence? We see this kind of event over and over, so geoengineering.
Literally.
Okay, we're gonna,
Literally bomb drop.
we're gonna go on to the next video, but you can watch the full one if you boot it up at home. And I know Trey is from the Carolinas, so I'm sure.
Forgive my passion, right? I'm a southern boy.
What's
I'm a
that?
southern boy, man. Forgive my passion, but yeah, one of those videos on that list is about that. It's really treacherous what they did.
Yeah. So
The
he's,
Syria and Asheville, you know.
yeah, so he's, a victim with his family over there.
Well, my mom was out of power for 3 days. Unfortunately, I was planning to actually to go with family in Asheville, but you know, it's like, I don't know. I didn't never get back over there, but now it seems like a dangerous place.
Yeah, I'm glad you're over here. I'm glad you survived it.
weather control and determine where it rains, when it rains, and who specifically gets rain.
You can see the formation of the center circulation. Jim Scott Stevens, studying meteorology at the University of Kansas. And that was my first TV job was on the air in Topeka. I worked in Omaha and Tulsa, all the New York, and then out into Eastern Iowa, Hotel Iowa, I was working for the last 10 years of my 20-year curriculum. It wasn't until 2005 when I got deep into the modification aspect of the story of geoengineering. One of the parts of the program that is very important that plays into chemtrails is the precision of these actions in the atmosphere. These chemtrails are absolutely required, so they introduce the right energy, the right location, the right length of time. These trails are wires in the sky.
The combined technologies like HARP and the chemtrails were designed to work together as weather weapons.
HARP, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Project. It is filled with phased array antennas. They steer microwaves into the ionosphere where they will activate all of the ions up there.
They can use excitation waves that actually affect the metallic particles. So we've ionized the air column. They can heat it, they can cool it. HARP has directional antennas, and they can focus their antennas on where they want to move the jet stream, and they can hit the jet stream, and they create an artificial high.
If you accentuate the high, if you amplify a little bit, it's like building a mound of dirt. And you have a little creek or a little stream of water. You build a mound of dirt, that water's not going to go through it. So you build the mound, and then that's going to impact storms that are inbound. So it's very easy to add those particulates of aluminum, barium, and whatever else they want to put in there. And as you add heat to that, those particulates then radiate the heat into the atmosphere, and it warms. And what does a warming atmosphere do? Boom, it expands. We see more intense droughts. We see rainfall rates of 1 to 2.25 inches an hour, and sometimes even rainfall, an inch and a quarter a minute. It's just unheard of. And so when you get the atmosphere capable of conducting this kind of electricity, plus the engineers, you're going to end up with weather that is extreme, and that's what you kind of.
When they move the jet stream, it then pushes up into the polar vortex. The polar vortex really can only move when there's something impacting it, like HARP.
They can heat up that ionosphere. So when the jet stream comes in, it hits that bubble and it's burst. The jet stream flow that is normal brings precipitation and brings the jet stream right into California. And then it brings storm systems with it. It brings rain.
The jet stream got pushed off of the coast of California. It dried us up and took all our moisture away and pushed the jet stream north. And when it hit the polar vortex, it then was ricocheted right down the east coast.
What we've been getting, very warm, very dry conditions in California, but in terms of the Arctic and in the Midwest, it's swinging all of that moisture, all that cold air.
You can kill a storm in place. That's easy to do with HARP. You'll see the texture and structure of the storm just melt. And it will become just this diffuse, amorphous, featureless mess. And that was one of the big epiphanies I had in forecasting. Anticipating a winter storm coming through, you've got to set forecast out that night, and you're waiting for the snowstorm. You're waiting for the snowstorm. You're waiting for the snowstorm, and it just doesn't. And you go outside, and you see a warming zone begin to show up on the satellite loops. The clouds literally just begin to warm. And then that collapses the potential of the storm to put down the moisture. It's done. It's shock.
Okay, that's the end of that one.
Anytime you put an aerosol into the atmosphere,
For decades, those with eyes to see have been aware of chemtrail.
Is that too loud, or how's it going? Too loud? Okay, let's try again, but let me know if it goes too low.
In our skies, and for decades, we were called conspiracy theorists. 2016, while serving as director of the CIA, John Brennan admitted that chemtrails are real at the Council on Foreign Relations.
Another example is the array of technologies, often referred to collectively as geoengineering, that potentially could help reverse the warming effects of global climate change. One that has gained my personal attention is stratospheric aerosol injection, or SAI, a method of seeding the stratosphere with particles that can help reflect the sun's heat in much the same way that volcanic eruptions do. An SAI program to limit global temperature increases, reducing some risks associated with higher temperatures and providing the world economy additional time to transition from fossil fuels. This process is also relatively inexpensive. The National Research Council estimates that a fully deployed SAI program would cost about $10 billion yearly.
In 2007, it was announced that nano-sized particles, known as smart dust, can be dispersed over the battlefield via aerial spraying. The military has contracted several multinational corporations to develop wearable biosensors. Biosensors and smart dust can become something known as body dust that can spread inside the human body as an active network, capable to provide telemetry from inside the body for the use of monitoring humans. There is a patent for using polyethylene glycol derivatives as a way to modify the weather, the same substances used in the COVID-19 lipid nanoparticles. These polymers can be integrated with biosensors and soft robotics for smart materials, materials that can be modified by external stimuli. Soft robotics is a subfield of robotics that utilizes compliant materials rather than rigid ones, such as the hydrogels found in the experimental COVID shots. DuPont is manufacturing elastomers for fast-moving soft robots and have developed the fastest DEA-driven soft robots ever reported, designed for biosensing, interacting with biological entities, and actuating on a cellular level. In her recent article, Smart Dust, Biosensors, Polymers for Geoengineering, and the Multinational Corporations that Manufacture Them, Dr. Anna Maria Mielchia points out that these are the transhumanist technologies that will be giving AI enormous amounts of data, as Bill Gates said, to understand 100 trillion organisms. She also points out the important fact that the elastomers being fabricated by DuPont for this soft robot technology are made of the exact same chemicals found when analyzing the messagens, a compound that displays liquid crystal properties, found in targeted individuals. And they appear to be the same compounds she found in the blood of the vaxxed, as well as the blood of the unvaxxed, which appear to be the same structures used as part of electronic circuitry in self-assembly nanotechnology. Smart dust is a system of tiny microelectromechanical systems that can detect light, temperature, vibration, magnetism, or chemicals. They are operated wirelessly on a computer network, can be used for medical or military surveillance purposes, and can be dispersed through the air via chemtrails, which would greatly go unnoticed by the sleeping masses who have come to accept them. When combined with the messaging soft robot technology, which has already been found in several blood samples of unwitting victims, they could create a means of monitoring and controlling the entire human population. Reporting for InfoWars, this is Greg Reese.
In 1983, I did radiotomography with 30 watts, looking for oil in the ground. I found 26 oil wells over a 9-state area, and 100% of the time was accurate, which is 30 watts of power being straight into solid rock. HARP uses 1 billion watts being straight into the atmosphere for experiments. Picture these strings on the piano as layers of the earth. Each one has its own frequency. What we used to do was beam radio waves into the ground, and it would vibrate any strings that were present in the ground. We might get a sound back like, and we'd say, that's natural gas. sound back like, I would say that's crude oil. We were able to identify each frequency. We accomplished this with just 30 watts of radio power. If you do this with a million watts, the vibrations are so loud that the entire piano would shake. In fact, the whole house would shake. In fact, the vibrations could be so severe underground that could even cause an earthquake. 1983, I did radio tomography with 30 watts, looking for oil in the ground.
I've noticed and we reported on. And if, by the way, if you don't think I'm on it, feel free to correct me, because I'm accessing you as the expert. I'm kind of off-site, although I've done a lot of investigation. So a few days before, we had reports of drones and other things flying over the area. Have you heard any of that going on?
Yes, my friends who live in, they actually said that there were drones up at Haleakala. Haleakala is the volcano there, the mountain, the Mauna, and they said that there were drones up there and that they were gassing them up and they didn't know why. So that was prior to the fire, yes.
And about in a couple of years, the 2 years that preceded this, wasn't there like an unprecedented drought of some sort also?
In Lahaina, absolutely.
Which dried everything out ahead of time.
Absolutely. See, what people don't realize is that Lahaina was the heart of was the capital of all the Hawaii Islands. King Kamehameha ruled from Lahaina. Lahaina, it wasn't on Oahu, it was Lahaina. And so they literally struck the heart of the islands. And Lahaina had all these water flows. It had water throughout it. It was lush. It was actually a pond that they actually filled in this pond that was there because they diverted the water to other places, to the hotels, and literally dried out Lahaina. So yes, prior to it was very dry.
And I have several reports of what looked like something being sprayed, and there was almost a thick haze that lasted 2 days before and the day of. Do you have the same information?
Absolutely. I can actually show you a picture of it. There was my friend who lives on Maui. His name is Bruce Douglas. He is an engineer, and he's been studying the weather, watching the weather for 15 years on the Hawaii Islands. And he literally takes a picture of the day before, or some day the day is clear, in the same area. He takes a picture of the day before the fire, and you can see this haze. And then there's a woman who goes on TikTok that literally does a video and says, what
here's what's interesting, and when I put 2 and 2 together, and then we'll go from here, is it was really weird for me when I was hearing reports that got buried immediately, where people felt like their skin was burning, and they ran into the water, although they weren't near a fire, they were not on fire. And from the investigation, that would happen if you had lasers come down and they hit aluminum oxide. It does that to the whole area. But those reports disappeared. Those people, the witnesses, were gone. We couldn't get a hold of them after 2 or 3 days. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, absolutely. It was something. I actually have pictures of the of bodies that there's no way were burned normally. I mean, you can see the corn rolls in her hair. You can see the hair. You can see there's one body that's very disturbing because you see half of the body is a normal human being and he's lying on the ground, and the other half he has a line through him, a charred line all the way through his body, and his right arm is sticking off the ground. It's lifted. It's floating off the ground, and that whole side of his body is black charred. It's like it's petrified. So there was definitely some type of laser. There is a patent for a microwave frequency laser that uses a titanium sapphire crystal, and I believe that was used because of blue things that didn't burn. We can go to that in a moment, but definitely, I have a picture of a dog that is out and running. You can see his fur, you can see his ears, you can see his paw pads. Like, how does that not burn? Then my friend who went to Lahaina Burn Zone, he found a toad. He snuck it back to Big Island. We did a whole video on it on my YouTube channel, and my YouTube is Blossom Inner Wellness. But it's leaping. This frog is in mid-leap, frozen or petrified or carbonized. I don't know what the word is. The inside is it's gone. Everything's gone on the inside, but you can hold him, and he's frozen. And we believe that it's definitely some type of direct energy weapons used on people and the animals that were there for sure.
Yeah, and you're not saying this as somebody that just walks around looking for conspiracies. You literally did the investigation and dug this information up and the interviews and physically put your hands on them, which is just absolutely incredible. So I kind of set it up. I'm going to let you take it from here, but I just wanted to give people kind of the setup of pre and maybe the first day, and then you go from there.
Okay, can I do a screen share? So
please
show everybody to, okay, let's.
Screen shares. Let me bring this up for you.
Yes, so I do want to let people know, I have a really good friend of mine who works for national security, and actually I'll share that story when I get to that slide. So natural disaster or land grab. So here's Maui Fire 2023, and here's North Carolina 2024. And so weather modification that was used, I'm going to go over that really quick but the first act, there was a weather modification act, went through Congress in 1976. So people who go, oh, there's no weather modification, even the president who said that, I was like, you guys have a weather modification act in 1976. It literally says a review and analysis of researching efforts and needs in weather modification technology. And this was in 1976. Again, the first patent is in 1891. This is how many weather modification patents do we have? More than 200 patents have been issued between 1890 and 2014. And then what's really strange is that after 2014, the info on issued patents has stopped. It hasn't been disclosed. The biggest weather modification patents happened in the 70s and the 90s. And you can go to freepatents.online.com to look at this. This is a weather modification patent apparatus, and it is for the region of exciting electron, let me read this one part. In one embodiment, circularly polarized She said, Michelle, it was like a square cloud and then blue sky. She said it was a checkerboard, and it went for miles. And she works for National Security, travels the world, and has never seen anything like that before or since. This is August 8th in the PM. This is when Lahaina was totally on fire. The fire was at its highest, but yet it's blocked out by this block of black line. Now, on occasion, this does happen on these satellite images, but this just happened to be happening on the day of the fire when it's at its most peak, and it goes right over Maui. You can't even see Maui. I want to talk a little bit about the death toll.
Hey, real quick, Michelle, before you get to that, I want to give word credence to the weather modification. So I got a text today, just today, and I'm intentionally not showing the person on top. Well, it seems like you can't see this too bright anyways. And she sent me a text, weather modification patents, just like I said, over 200 of them, right here.
Yeah.
And it just goes on and on and on and on. So if anybody thinks Michelle's full of crap, she's nailing it.
Yeah, and then also with Hurricane Helene. Hurricane Helene has, in fact, I have another one that I'll just pull up really fast because I want to show you guys that one as well. I thought it was on this one, but let me just show you this right up here. This is Hurricane Helene. That one also has a weather modification that was used for that. Okay, it's not coming up, so I'll just explain it to you guys. They have an ability to use frequency and sound to move air masses. So that is a patent that is a hurricane, it's called a hurricane direction patent. And the inventor abandoned the patent, which means it's open up, anybody can use it. So that is actually a true patent. They also, in 2009, they named Bill Gates the Hurricane Tamer because and along with 12 other inventors, which makes it 13 inventors, an interesting number, 13 inventors created a hurricane taming apparatus, which is supposed to reduce the intensity of hurricanes. And so my question always is, why didn't he use this? Here's the hurricane, he could be a hero. Why didn't he use this? So I think we all know the answer to that. But they do have the ability to move air masses, you guys. They do have the ability to move hurricanes. So I wanted to share that. Again,
Michelle, if anybody wants absolute proof of this, do you remember Hurricane Milton, which followed Hurricane Helene? So, and still today, guys, I just checked last week, if you go to AccuWeather.com and click on Hurricane Milton tracker, you will be blown away what you see. Blown away. You literally, number one, it starts someplace where a hurricane never starts. It never starts on the west coast of the Gulf, ever. But actually, there was one maybe like 68 years ago that did. And then what it did is it tracked up, down, sideways, back, all the way around until they finally got it into the weather pattern they needed it to, and then headed over to. It is the most obvious thing to show you've ever seen. Guys, go to AccuWeather.com. Maybe I'll print it up and show you. Blow you away. And that's proof positive that is being manipulated because no hurricanes jump up and down and all around. They take us out.
and they also don't stay intense like a 4-degree hurricane when they go inland. They die. They literally sat right over North Carolina and stay in a Category 4 hurricane. That's impossible. Naturally, it's impossible. So I do want to share a little bit about the death toll that happened because a lot of people ask about that, and it's really weird. My friend to Maui and be one of the frontline people that pulls the bodies out of the water. You know, I mean, even though they found all people, even the people that were in the water, which is literally impossible. Ellie Cochran, the state representative, said if people were in the water and they held on to anything, they would have been blown out to sea. So, but they found everybody, right? They found everybody. Nobody's missing. But to go back to my story, my friend works for National Security. Her friend was asked to pull the bodies out of the water, and he said that they were. Oh, I can't really speak about this. They were pulling bodies out of the water that were in a swimming position, frozen, petrified. I don't know what the right word is. He said they were not. It was like something happened to them right away, and we don't know what that is. He doesn't want to be interviewed, and that's the other thing too that really bothers me is that there's locals who pulled bodies out of the water. There's local fishermen, and they're not speaking. They had to sign a non-disclosure. One boat captain, this is from a friend of mine who lives on Maui, who knows this man personally. He said that one boat captain said he pulled 180 bodies out of the water, and another boat captain says he pulled over 200 out. But yet we're supposed to believe only 102. And I want to let you guys know, the coroner on Maui currently is the police chief. And the police chief is the same police chief, John Pelletier, who was the police chief for the Mandalay Bay shooting in Vegas.
He was actually the communications director for them. Yeah, so he's the one that came out, and he was the public face. So he was dictating the message, which probably made it more powerful than the police chief in Vegas. And then he just happens to go here.
To go to Maui. And let me tell you guys something, and you can read about this in the book. They had to change laws in order to get him to be the police chief in Maui, because you could not be a police chief unless you lived on Maui for a year. They actually changed it to 30 days, and they changed another law that is escaping my brain, but it's in the book. So this man is the coroner, because there's no coroner, so he's the one that signs people's death certificates. The death toll number is just, for this type of tragedy, the firefighter that I interviewed, he said for this type of tragedy, he's never seen the death count be so low. And he said there's so many questions. So I do want to do a warning for people, and this next picture is very disturbing. I'll show it briefly. This is the man. This is his body on the left is human, is like normal, and look at the right hand. How is this possible? And it's not burned. Like the only thing burned is towards his rib cage. It's just the dog. How is his fur still on? And his ears, and you can see his face and his big paws, his paw pads.
So Michelle, maybe this will help, because I studied this, and it actually happens in Ukraine. We have some pictures of it.
That one was called Temple House Tuesday Line.
I went to Paradise and I saw the same thing in Paradise. You saw cars like that, and the next film were like
Hey, Lord, guys.
plastic trash
Hey, Lord.
and trees.
Hey, Lord.
Okay, we're gonna start this guy.
Hey, Lord, guys. Eric West here, Water Real Estate. Welcome to you live from Lahaina neighborhood, Hawaii. Citizens impromptu reporter. Wasn't planning on doing this. This is what we're doing. I'm thankful to have a starling from David Crawford, and we're here reporting on what is potentially a smoking gun of sorts. We just don't know what it is. But I'm going to show you the scenario of this car and what's surrounding it, and how temperatures could reach this level, creating this amount of melting of aluminum. I'm here with Donovan. He is, I believe, a hero of sorts. Aloha, Donovan. He's the one that brought it to my attention that we have these very strange occurrences. We just shot down on the highway. I don't know if it was actually live, but we have it all recorded, so we're going to post it. We're at another one of these locations. So this is well above the burn zone, essentially, in a neighborhood known as Lahaina Luna. I'm going to show you around real quick so you can see the scenario and then judge for yourself. And again, if you enjoy content like this, I encourage you, please like the channel, subscribe, and share the video so you can get the truth of what's going on here in Maui. So where I'm at right now, just to orientate you, you can see the lights for the football stadium right there at Lahaina Luna. So we're right below Lahaina Luna High School in the neighborhood that did not, I repeat, did not burn. You can see all these houses are standing around here, unburned. There's no burn here, okay? So to me, this is like something out of a space movie, because you have this small field with some grass that burned, right? You can see where the grass burned. But then you have these two vehicles sitting in here that have melted aluminum. So Don, if you want to just take us through this car real quick and show us, I know you know a few things about cars, and point out some things that require a very high temperature. By the way, we just talked to the neighbor who was talking to an investigator in Lahaina Town yesterday, and he said the investigator told him the temperatures reached in excess of 3,000 degrees. So tell us what you got, Don.
Well, we have about 300 degrees for aluminum, and this is
1,300?
1,300.
1,300, okay.
1,300, well, 1220, but if you round it up, because it was not only melted, it was liquefied to the point where it became a river of aluminum going down the dirt hill.
So this is the aluminum rim, obviously. There's the tire. It's left of it. It's steel thread. There's steel belts.
And maybe a combination of gas tank if the gas tank aluminum.
Okay, okay. So you have liquefied aluminum running down the side of the grass fire.
The caliper melted, unless they stole it. But it looks like the bolts are still there. So that, and then you get the belt, the steel belt of the tire, which is just a bunch of a wire mesh laying there. And you have the windows that were melted, the back window. If you look at it, big old, like almost like
the glass is just melted.
Yeah, it was
dripping.
This is almost what you would see if you put a car in an incinerator.
But this is not surrounded by a bunch of structure fires or anything.
Yeah, there's no fuel.
So besides the gas that was in the tank, what's your theory on what could create temperatures at this level in the middle of a field?
Anomaly, I think is the word.
So this is the second anomaly.
Yeah, that's why I stopped. I looked at it, I'm like, okay, house. Nothing's burned, and then you have melted steel and glass, and then the only thing that is left is the steel, the thick steel frame, and then the steel sheet metal.
So I don't know if you guys have figured this out yet, but the media has not been given access to Lahaina Town. Everything is locked up. Matter of fact, this gentleman next door, he was on Front Street yesterday, and he was supposed to get access, and then the mayor shut it down because people were taking pictures. So they don't want pictures taken of anything in Lahaina Town. So they don't want you to see this, which would be my guess. Because the more that you take a look at this, and especially in this scenario, if there was a car like this in the middle of Lahaina, you might think to yourself, well, okay, it was in the middle of this major burn. There's an animal that died here or something. I'm smelling that must be a cat. That smells like a dead something.
Yeah.
Oh, that is so sad. That's so sad. Someone's dog. Oh. So now we have another vehicle right next to it. Talk to me about this one, Don.
Yeah,
What are you seeing?
It's symmetrical with the other one. They're pretty much identical. I mean, the heat is just tremendous heat. Melting glass, melting metal, incinerating the tires to the point of, the only thing you see is the steel belts, which actually fall apart like spaghetti noodles when you touch it.
So the media is not allowed in here. No one's allowed in Lahaina Town. So the only way this message is going to get out right now is if you, until your fingers bleed for America, start sharing this video.
They put it into the steering wheel. All it is steering column.
We the people is all we got left here. And the more we get the word out, the more people start seeing this crazy anomaly. And we're seeing it in a lot of different places. Donovan here's been on a scooter. He was at the scene of the crime the day of the fire. He was helping people, rerouting them away from Lahaina as the cops had not blocked the southbound traffic until he got almost to Front Street.
Correct.
And notice the green grass here. Now, it's only been 2 weeks. I don't know if that's 2 weeks.
2 weeks of growth.
Is that 2 weeks of growth? We have green grass. You think is that 2 weeks of growth? Okay, maybe it is. There's a lot of green grass here. I don't know. Someone tell me how fast does grass grow? Is that 2 weeks of growth? Someone dumped some trash in there. I don't know who did that.
Some nice people.
Some nice people.
Yeah.
But if you don't share the story, I don't know who will, man. Someone's got to start putting this out for people that can help. I've had people tell me, hey, you guys got to go do something. Really? We just got like a little 5G back and it doesn't even work.
Okay, we're going to the next film. And then we only have one more after this one. A short one.
It's brush fire on Lahaina, burning right through the city. Look at all that smoke over there. It's caused by the something top, and then these super intense winds have just, turning into a big old roaring fire. They've been fighting it all night. They got it pretty under control by this morning. But the winds are picking up a lot heavier, and it looks like they're struggling to maintain control of the situation. You can see the fire burning from there. Hope everybody's okay. That is intense. We can smell it. Tornado off in the distance.
whatever on it's gotten out of there. My goodness. It's on fire. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's not fire. Harbor.
it's very, I think it's very important to reveal all the stuff that, you know, we're revealing right now. You especially, because you have that eye, that touch. Maui, you've been looking at Maui. Let's jump into that, and there's several things we're going to look at tonight.
Yeah, I think this one is going to be, there's a lot going on in the world if you haven't noticed, and I really feel that it is almost like what is quoted in old scriptures as well, at the end of times, where it's fire, earth, wind and fire, almost an apocalypse, almost, like insects and bugs and you name it. We see it everywhere, earthquakes and fires and bizarre things everywhere, where I would very strongly suggest that not a lot of it is natural. More or less all of it that I'm looking at had the definite signature of directed energy weapon, of HARP, of chemtrailing before, of gene-modified horror, and I mean, it's like there's a massive movement forward, and the way it's done is through the US military, through NATO, and so on. But these are just tools that are being used by the same force that we see moving forward, or really trying to push forward through Agenda 21 and the Fourth Industrial Revolution, the World Economic Forum, the New World Order, just different names, same bullshit. So I want to say that I think it's interesting when change is made in real time, live time, because it's one thing to quote or look into like an assassination in 1963 or something and discover something. It's another thing to discover things in ongoing operations, pointing things out, and then the operation changes or stops. That is my top kind of dessert. I like that, because that is when we start making changes in the world.
Right.
And so, I don't know where to start. Yeah, let's just jump in. I can start with some Dane Wigington, my last name, has become an international verb. For the reason for that is that I was contacted by an anonymous whistleblower I don't know to this very day who it was, who said that I was doing great exposing these false facts, but I was missing out on the hidden clues. And I was like, what do you mean hidden clues? And he said that due to the law of karma, that they really fear the law of karma, they think that if they show us even in subtle ways what they're going to do, we don't react, then that karma's on our shoulders, not theirs. So it's in their selfish interest to point it out. So once I understood that that was actually true, since then I believe that I connected, exposed, or stopped 68 of these attacks up to 2 months before they happened. Two, 3 I know for sure. And I love your camera, by the way.
It's got a mind of its own.
But this is AI for you, so this is what we have now. It's so brilliant, yeah, but it's got a mind of its own. Well,
right here.
You just have to go.
Yeah, you go. Okay.
I'm glad you have a blue chair.
It's a blue house too.
Sorry.
Oh, he's got a blue house with you.
I'm hiding behind the
blue chair.
Okay, so no, but what I've done is on international radio, I predicted many of these ones and said, this is why what I see, boom, please be aware, boom, it happened. That's when you and I, in the beginning when we met, I told you, Washington DC, Capitol Hill, just December 6th, watch out, because I knew that you were going there, so I was caring for you and saying, please be aware, it's going to go down if I'm correct. And the very next day, we had that whole thing happen. So here, I want to take you on a little ride here when it comes to downguarding and show you what I think are some of these clues. So if I share my screen, please bear with me today because I'm tired and also there's a lot going on. So if I So,
Well, along your lines, I've been involved when I was in the military in coding and secret encodements, and basically we would make encodements and we would put them out, and I knew that some of those encodements we could make to go into the public, and there were people that knew they were looking for these encodements, and that they would be informed or they'd be turned on or something would happen. So I know that you look at that kind of stuff too, so it's
Matthew, kind of the chase and all this rambling, this.
Well, this is the.
so not just, you know, they're doing the karma thing, but it's also they honor something that happened due in the oath. It's that you look at that kind of stuff too, so that.
This in Maui, we created a brand new unit with the Space Force, and it's a targeting unit. And this is their emblem right there in the middle. It goes on their patch on their uniforms. And if you look closely at it, it's the Grim Reaper in a black hoodie with like lasers coming out of his eyes with the double triangle children targeting symbol, and then behind it is snakeskin, reptilian skin. And this is a patch that's actually for the military, for this unit. That they started up right after the fire in behind it.
Wow. It started right after that?
Yeah. They created it out of nothing. And this is, he says this is right off the Space Force's website.
Yeah.
If that's where they got
They've got, that's on the government website.
Yeah,
That's
the Space Force's website.
See, man, they just put
They always like to
site.
tell you in advance, you know, the armor reasons and what it is. It's a mind blower.
It's the more retarded Luciferian thought that they tell you that it's okay.
But these are generals, and this is a ceremony establishing this unit.
Bounce the karma.
And then there's a close-up of this insignia. It shows you closer what it is if you want to let it go for a couple seconds.
It's so it's not just, you know, they're doing the karma thing, but it's also.
Wow. This is their insignia for that unit.
Notice the one eye.
Yeah, and the laser coming out of it,
Wow, that's creepy. Actually, demonic.
And right before the fire, 4 days, 2 weeks, and then they stopped the operation 4 days before the fire. I was saying earlier that they had the Navy and the Space Force and 13 other countries had their navies in one area, and they were showing off the new laser, you know, that were put out by, I guess, Lockheed Martin or whoever. Yeah, just before the fires. And the operation was called Tallyman Saber. And Tallyman is some kind of protector, and Saber is like a lightsaber in Star Wars. Well, it could. Well,
We're done with our movies.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
seventh, because this is very
Wow.
well, this is good enough.
So we're gonna, have any questions for Lyle? That's it for our movies, but I wanted to, give Lyle a round of applause. He put together all these movies.
Yeah, that was great, man. We appreciate that.
You know, any questions or comments for Lyle?
I just wanted to ask you that, we have these, extract stations up and down the coast here, all the way from Mexico to Canada. And just like the videos were showing earlier, they can switch it on, and they can like Eureka, Crescent City, Cruz Bay, Vandenberg. And when I went to the one up here, I took pictures and we couldn't get it on the stills to put it on here, but I got out of the car and walked up the hill to that one that's in Princeton, and there's a sign as you walk up the thing, and it says U.S. Space Force, Vandenberg's most northern post. So it belongs to the Space Force, right? And then I took pictures. I went up outside the gate, the fence, and I took pictures, and they were probably looking, hey, what's this guy doing?
They launched a lot of satellites from there.
Oh, from Vandenberg, not from up here. Yeah, right.
I got a question. I feel a tiny regret that I didn't mention. I made a video about Los Angeles, and we didn't. It's easy to not like them. It's something to not bring it up. But like, I feel that was also. In fact, in my video I made about that, I exposed how in December 2020, their Smart City 2028 plan, they plan, to completely change it, make it car free. So, but there was no water in the fire hydrants magically, So I was going to ask you, do you think that they steered some kind of weather or direct energy geoengineering to make it really dry? Or did they do something to prepare for the Maui similarly?
Yeah. Well, they
were
came
saying that
for 2 days before the fire. And so what this does
They did what?
with the directed energy, see what
So
I
they,
think.
so they directed certain types of energy of
Well, it's like a
geoengineering.
plasma beam, right? It's either from a satellite or one of their aircraft. But what they do, what I think happened, and I said earlier, is that they went up almost to the Lahaina, where there's a substation for the electric company, and they started a fire from the weeds, and it went towards town, and they put it out the day before, and then the next morning it started back up again.
Oh yeah, that was
And that's getting people to believe it's actually a natural fire. And then when it comes close to the structure, if they turn on the directed energy, and what they do is it hits the house, and what it'll do is all your appliances that are metal, your plumbing pipes, your electric wires, they all heat up red hot, and they are the ones that destroy everybody that's in it. They turn into powder. They can't find who the people were. In fact, I was saying before one time that when I go to Hawaii, I stay with this guy that we're good friends with an ex-FBI agent that was actually called to come over and be part of the recovery team. And the first night he said, she texted him and says they had 850 bodies already, still counting. 2 days later, she said they ran out of body bags at 1,500, and they were still, and she said that they were going around to the cars that were toasted like those two, and the only way they could tell that somebody perished in the car was that their dogs could sniff it because their bodies were turning powder. And so this has all been kept quiet from the media. And she was in the FBI. I mean, she just happened to be a friend of mine. They told me about it.
Do you guys have a link? Smart meters.
Me? Smart meters? Yeah, in LA, the smart meters were a big thing. And a lot of the fires in LA, Palisades, were starting from the inside of the house and burning out. So the smart meters get pulsed. And I had a friend a couple years ago where I lived that the PG&E had the power turned off because they had to cut trees down, and then when they turned it back on, something in the house got pulsed, and all of his appliances got fried. So that they can do this on purpose if you have a smart meter. They can do that. That's a good one.
If you go on YouTube and just type in smart meter fires,
Yeah.
there's a lot of videos.
Oh yeah, Deborah Tavares talks about
They
it.
also use arsonists, like in Los Angeles, they have teams of arsonists, so
Well,
between arsonists and smart meters.
and the directed energy.
And there's mysteriously no water in the fire hydrants at that time too, of course.
Yeah, that's how they work it. Because if you try to spray water on something while directed energy is hitting it, it won't put out a directed energy fire, just like it won't put out a lithium fire. Right?
Wow.
And it'll be obvious when you spray it and you happen to run it across an area that's being hit with directed energy. It'll be so obvious. So they cut the water off. They made it so that the sirens for the tsunamis were turned off. The cell phones were turned off, and the police at both ends of the town were turning people around back into the fire, and they wouldn't let them escape. And many of those people, they got torched in their cars.
Right.
And some of them got out and tried to swim, and I guess they got fried out here because some of the boats that got cut off from their mooring in the harbor were actually out in the water and got torched from directed energy because it hits the metal that's on the boat, and then the metal catches the wood on fire. Because the direct energy does not interact with wood. It's just like if you put a piece of wood in your microwave oven and push the button, it won't do anything. And like up in Santa Rosa, all these houses got burnt down to the foundations, and then the cars were toasted in the driveway, and 6 feet away was a plastic 33-gallon garbage thing that didn't even get melted.
They were all
And
blue,
all the
right?
trees around are all fine.
They were all blue, right? The blue things.
No,
right?
they won't affect plastic. And that's why when they have these fires, they
I thought the blue things didn't get
no,
affected.
they didn't, and behind the right. Because that frequency of the blue color does not, it's something about the plasma or whatever they're sending down. There might be some kind of, what is that gem that's blue sapphire? There's something to do with sapphire and the actual directed energy. So it doesn't affect blue colors. And they should,
Yeah, but this is new house, this all roof is blue.
yeah. In China, there's
He never locked down his restaurant in 2020. He never locked his restaurant down and he heard everyone else do it.
We got a new roof out there, it's fast.
I think this thing, the lithium battery, I think that was deliberate. I don't think that was just a random fire. Because it was happening right after everything else. Like everything was catching on fire in one country. Oh, whoops, we got another battery fire.
Yeah, well, Mark Steele, I don't know if you know who Mark Steele is. He's a weapons expert from England. And he designs equipment for that headed display for military aircraft. He's an expert in microwave. And he calls the electric cars security bombs on wheels. Because you know how many cars that were electric that were in Palisades and places like that caught on fire? And they created the smoke and the toxins coming off them. And then their charging stations. The whole thing is designed to be like bombs against us.
And now they got this psyop of people think that if they set a Tesla on fire, they're going to stick it to Elon Musk. So they're creating bombs like.
Well, those are the green people that love electric vehicles to save the planet.
I mean, it's probably mostly feds. It's probably mostly feds. It's probably mostly CIA, but there's some idiots that fall for it too.
But,
Liberal violence.
Yeah, Democrats, burning Democrats' cars.
but anyway, the whole of humanity is under attack, I believe, by the 1% of the 1%. In fact, David Icke says you could probably put all the main guys in one room together to control the planet. And I call them beings. I don't even include them as being necessarily all human. And no, there's more. There's like Dr. Carrie Madej, and then there's La Quinta Colonna from Spain that have taken the vials and put microscopes on them. And they claim, and they say on video that they believe that this technology is light years ahead of what humans are using on, and they called it off-planet technology. What's in there?
Although I think that the ancient humans were light years ahead of us. Like this is like the lowest point of human technology. If you go anywhere back in the past, I think they were much smarter. Like even humans were much smarter. Like now, like we just are plastic. We make everything plastic and shiny, and we think that makes us good at doing stuff. But all our technology just kills us.
Well,
I think we're gonna have to wrap it up, but I wanna give Lyle a big round of applause.
Wow, that was great. Appreciate that. Thanks to Keith and Kathleen and everyone else here in Brave and Free Santa Cruz. And Lyle, we have the greatest activist group as far as powerful t-shirts on the planet, probably. I mean, even if it was not my opinion, they weren't my friends, just by the sheer power and potency of their designs as far as activism. So hope you enjoyed that, and as always, create a great one. If if at all possible, when you're under weather weapon attacks,